wizards, welcome back. Now I come to you guys today a little bit disappointed, and I know I did a poll so you know what this video is, but things didn't go so well for this optic, and the more I look at it, I don't understand how so many things can go so horribly wrong. Let me back up for a minute. I want to say this. In the firearms industry, there's a couple different high-tier players, and they make different levels of optics. And I believe there is an assumption that if you're going to spend 1,000 rectangular fungal tokens on an optic, that optic is going to be fairly good, right? We would all kind of assume that. I definitely think that way. With a big name and a fairly big cost, I'm expecting to get something pretty great. When I sit down and look at today's optic, and as the review unfolded, I was just continually flabbergasted because the whole thing, it just feels like a money grab. And I'll show you so you could make your own opinion, but that worst optic I've seen in 2025 that we'll be unfortunately taking a look at today is the Eotech Vudu 3:9 second focal plane with the mind-numbingly bad HC1 reticle. I'm gonna show you guys. The reticle marks, they don't even make sense. And I think whoever designed this, did the whole thing as some sort of practical joke, or they lost a bet somewhere. Now, I did see some leaked stuff that kind of went on Reddit, and some people sent to me too, that they are going to be releasing some new reticles for this optic. I don't know how excited you are, in 2026. I'll say right now, the mill one really looks nice, but that is a lot, like a lot to have going on in a second focal plane optic. The 3:9 Vudu, as a quick overview here, is a smaller, lightweight optic with a single horrible mount designed in, as I said, second focal plane. So the reticle doesn't change size as the magnification changes, meaning you can only really use 3 or 9. But there's no good throw lever on here to quickly swap between them, and the eye relief is just horrible. So you're gonna see, and your brain is just gonna start hurting immediately. You're gonna have a great time. I'm also at this point 100% convinced that this optic only exists to sell the E-Flex, give it another platform it can be used on, in a way to, make some sales on that mid-tier red dot that's not doing very well at all. I did buy the scope ring and put my E-Flex on it so we can get the whole god-awful experience together. You're gonna enjoy this video, and I'm gonna be excited that it's over so I never have to see this thing again. But before we get into it, sponsor love. Today's video is sponsored by Fatboy Tripods. Fatboy just released the all-new Pursuit 18 tripod. The Pursuit 18 is designed to be an easily packable tripod that goes from 18 inches to about 4.5 feet in height with the invert 50 head. With the 3 leg positions, you can also set up the perfect position to glass on a ridge, or get low to stay still and quiet for the perfect shot. Fatboy tripods are just mastering accuracy, literally anywhere. Now, it's hard because you guys don't see behind the scenes, but if you were to look now, you see I'm using a Fatboy tripod right now. I use it at the range. I use it for all the stuff we do on the table. And it's amazing that these tripods have survived just the daily abuse that I put them through, from just recording to the range and everything else. So if you want to pick up one of these tripods that I think I've definitely tested the crap out of, make sure to use discount code TLDco over on that Fatboy website. Save a ton. Big thanks to our sponsors for always supporting the crazy videos that we're doing and when we want to review some crap like this. Now we got to get into my biases, and I feel like I definitely have some biases when it comes to this optic, but kind of in the other way, not thinking it's going to be bad, kind of a bias assuming it's going to be good. I say that because I've purchased multiple Eotech red dots and optics, and they've been my go-to for most of my CQB platforms, and even our ridiculous 6-arc platform that just does amazing every time I take it out. Now, those optics each have their own cons, but the pros always far outweigh the cons. So there's an expectation of this tier of quality that I've continually got, that my biases kind of come into play to say, I'm expecting to get that. So with this optic, I have to say I did get it at a marketing discount. Even with that, I paid way too much. So just know I am biased because I expect a high level and I'm annoyed at even paying $1 for this thing. But it's thanks to our Patreon supporters that we can say and do whatever we want. Don't take anything that I say or any other YouTuber says as gospel. If your favorite YouTube channel has 2 cameramen and an editor, somebody's paying those guys, and that should make you ask some hard questions. Do your own research so you can be the most educated consumer possible. Let's just get this beating over with though. Here's the Eotech 3-9 Vudu. At first glance, it looks like a cheap Amazon optic. It kind of breaks rule 1 of look cool right off the bat. I will say it does come with a nice standard Eotech scope caps at the front and rear of the optic, one of which is already broke though. It's fine, I'm telling you. Now, probably the highlight of the optic is this is great, the diopter. This is actually done very well and is easy to grab onto and adjust. Moving down, we have this center grippy area that does nothing, which is also great. Then we have our magnification throw. The throw itself is short, probably around 90 degrees and really, really nice. The rotation is a bit stiff though, and the throw lever is there, but why is it so small? Maybe they didn't want to block that great E-Flex setup they're trying to sell, but they could easily double the height of the throw lever to the same level as the turret without any sort of issue. I have to say that I just don't get it. You have an optic that's in second focal plane, so it's really only usable in 3 and 9. So you need to be able to quickly swap between 3 and 9. Does this do that? No. It looks like they took the mold for our first focal plane optic and just slapped it on here when the same application just doesn't apply. Just looking at it from an end user, like consumer standpoint, when I get this, I'm like, oh great, now I gotta start sourcing a throw lever to make this optic usable, or I just leave it set at 9x all the time and never adjust it. But at that point, it's just another question of why did I buy this? Moving down though, we have our cap turrets that kind of give away that you're meant to use holdover on the reticle and only 0 with these. Taking off the caps we see, yeah, that's exactly the case, as the only marking on here is a single 0. These clicks are insanely small between them and barely make any sort of audible sound. With that and the single markings, using these for turret adjustment would be just about impossible. And look at this, even in the manual, it shows you something completely different than what you actually have on the optic. Remember this, we need to be able to use the reticle because the markings on the turrets are pretty much non-existent. So that means you're going to be using holdover because you're not going to take this off and make these super tiny adjustments. But when you do that, and you design it this way, that means your reticle has to be absolutely phenomenal. As some hilarious foreshadowing, the reticle sucks really, really bad. Now on these turrets though, you can also pick up this whole ring and move it around though. For what? I don't know. Moving down, we have our mount with the E-Flex mounted on top. Thankfully, the main optic sits at 1.5 inches in height, so you can still have a solid chin anchor point when using the top dot. Now, at least they thought this part through and made the actual 3-9 at 1.5. You can get a problem when you have a 12 o'clock mounted dot on a 1.7 or a 1.93, where when you go to look through those, your chin just kind of starts floating in space. It's very difficult to find your dot when you have this much room between you and your rifle. And it's very obnoxious, so at least the whole thing is usable in this configuration, even if the red dot is not good. I mean, the E-Flex works well in this configuration at least. The illumination is just horrible, but I'll say to you, again, I'm fairly convinced the only reason this 3-9 optic even exists is just to have something to mount this E-Flex to. Other than that, I don't know why any of this exists. Oh, I forgot to note that there is a side illumination, but there's no parallax adjustment. So that means, yes, you can look out to 9x magnification, which will easily get you out to 600, 700, 800 yards, but at the same time, not be able to focus on any of that at all. But hey, come on, aren't you excited? You can use the E-Flex you didn't want on it. God Lord. Now the illumination settings are pretty smart with 10 settings and an off position in between. The reticle also lights up not only in the center, but portions of the windage and elevation to allow you to make proper holds also. And when you think about it, that's kind of a requirement because you can't use the turrets to dial it in. But we have to take a moment, talk about this reticle, talk about what went wrong, and who needs to be fired. This is the HC1 reticle. I have to assume it stands for Holy Crap 1 because it's horrible. It's so bad, in fact, that the reticle in the manual is better, and I don't know why they didn't go with that. Look at this. Let me explain. Between each marks is 2 MOA, right? Which is already great. So if we count to the middle mark, we totally expect to reach a reasonable number. No, not here. This is 16. And then if we count down more, we get 30, which is actually great because that means the top section is 16 MOA long and the bottom is 14 MOA. So they're not even the same distance. It honestly looks like some ding-dong copied the bottom onto the top and then didn't account for the space from the center dot to the start of the reticle. Why doesn't it just have 10, 20, 30? Right now, if I wanted to go to what would normally be pretty easy, like 9 MOA, it's obnoxiously difficult for no good reason. You gotta like start at 16, then count backwards to 14, 12, 10. Oh, okay, here we are in the middle of damn nowhere land. If we just had 10, 20, and 30 markers, this would be so much easier when you actually, try to use it. I hate this reticle so much. Like, who wants a reference point at 16 MOA? There's some MOA guys out there. Maybe you guys can tell me, is that some sort of like universal distance that you guys use? Because I'm not tracking that at all. I did look it up, and that's the equivalent of 4.65 mils, which is completely useless and arbitrary. Oh God, well, thankfully the windage has the same nonsense, so you have markings that also go out to 16 instead of 10. So you gotta count by 2s again to find your holdover. It's all very silly. The center dot, though, is nice at the standard 1.2 MOA, which is a new choice, but at least you have the areas to the left and right of your dot to see splashes and make impact adjustments. I mean, you can't make the adjustments on the turrets. You basically have to count again. It's just, the whole thing is a bafflingly bad bit of equipment. Just think, you too can own this for only 1,000 rectangles. It's such a value. But let's go give myself some like true long-lasting brain damage and go try to use this thing out at the range. Testing out at the close range, whoa, well, I'm glad I got that top dot because the 3X eye box is already punishingly tight, meaning you have to have the top dot mounted for anything inside of 100 yards.
That is not great. That is horrible eye relief, just so you know.
But the E-Flex has bafflingly poor illumination, so even on a mild sunny day, I'm struggling to see it. Moving out to distance, the 100-yard gong was easier to hit after a quick zero, but the 300-yard that is normally very easy to hit, well, I'm just kind of guessing at 3X because none of the markings mean anything useful. Thankfully, the target is the size of a barn door, so I can't really miss it. Moving to the 9X, the eye box gets significantly more punishing. I even tried using my scope cam, but the eye relief is so horrible I couldn't get a solid image. Here you can see me trying to make these shots with just my phone connected into the rear, reading those horrible markings I can't even see. Even using it the correct way, the eye relief is so hard to use that tracking shots to correct impacts is almost impossible as the weapon gets pulled off target from recoil. And then now I have to count again because there's no reference point to put me back on the correct MOA marking I should be at, so I'm here counting 2 from 16 again. Now going out even further to 430, the same problem of this trash reticle really starts to show up. Combine that with just god-awful eye relief, and I have no interest in doing this anymore. Like, shooting and using an optic, it should be fun. It shouldn't necessarily be challenging. Like, I like a good challenge, but it shouldn't be just challenging to use. Just being out there on the range of this makes me ask a lot of questions. One of them is like, what mushrooms are native to the building around Eotech? Because this is bad. Now, normally I would do like a nice, long, drawn-out section of pros and cons, but I think at this point it's kind of just insulting to all of you, so we're just gonna get straight into it. It's final thoughts and rankings time. The Eotech Vudu 3-9 second focal plane just looks and feels like a joke. There are cons on cons with the hardly usable throw lever, god-awful eye relief, Amazon tier mount, and the HC1 reticle that seems to have been designed by the newest intern. The whole 3-9 optic seems to exist only so you can mount the red dot on it, and the price is an absolute slap in the face for how bad this optic is. For this reason, I placed the Eotech Vudu 3-9 in F tier, with the coveted TLD, why the hell are we counting to 16 trophy. I don't ever want to see this thing again. It's arguably like roughly the same weight as the primary arms PLXC 1-8 LPVO. And comparing those two, yeah, they weigh the same, but that PLXC has a ton more functionality. Plus this horrible 3-8 and that primary arms LPVO, which is pretty much the best of the best, are almost, like, think this through, they're almost the same price. So you're stuck with this tough decision to get this wet monkey garbage or the best LPVO on the market. God, ooh, that's a tough one. I guess stay tuned as I try to find any optic besides this Eotech 3-9 Vudu for this platform. And no, there's absolutely no way this E-Flex is going on any of my pistols either. It did not perform at a level I would find acceptable. And well, the good news is I'm definitely making friends at Eotech today. But I hope this review of the Eotech 3-9 Vudu second focal plane with the god-awful HC1 reticle was helpful in your purchasing decisions. I want to say thanks to all of our Patreon supporters and our YouTube members. You make it possible we can test things like this and give you some unbiased review. Like, I've seen some reviews of this and those were obviously paid for. So thanks to you guys, we can come and show this and talk some truth for once, which is crazy. I also want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below what you think about this. Where you think I'm wrong. Maybe I want to hear that part. Where do you think I'm wrong on this optic? How I was using it wrong. I want to hear all about it. Or I want to hear what you think if maybe if I'm right. All right. I want to try maybe one of the better ones. Maybe the ones from next year will be better. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. Walsh out.
Mom, I have a question. Why is the metric system based off of 10, like 10, 20, 30, instead of like 16, 16, 32, 48?
Well, son, it's simple. It's because the world isn't stupid. That's why. That's the reason.